Hi everyone, welcome to Buckle Up Podcast. I'm Natalia Earle and I'm a certified business and life coach that loves talking to people. I'm fascinated by humans and how our brain works. What is it that makes a decision good or bad, and how does that decision ultimately shape our path and destiny? Everyone loves to talk about success, but what about the flip side? How about adversity? Failure is such a big and often necessary part of life, and it's simply unavoidable. So I invite you to join me on this inspiring, honest, unpolished interview show with breathtakingly real conversations that go deep on setbacks and hardships that are part of the puzzle that ultimately lead to growth, discovery of inner greatness, and what makes us resilient. Grab your helmet and buckle up, people. It's going to be a bumpy ride. But what a ride it will be. Today I sat down with my friend Victoria Rabin. This born and raised Minnesota girl has been married for 10 years and has two wonderful children who keep her very busy. At age 38, her health changed suddenly after the birth of her youngest child. She had many doctor's visits, misdiagnoses, and countless trips to the ER. Finally, in August of 2017, Victoria was diagnosed with IBD. On February 28, 2020, her ER visit turned into not leaving the hospital until her colon was removed. On March 7, 2020, Victoria made a life-changing decision to have a surgery of total colon removal with a temporary ostomy, followed by J-pouch surgery on November 2nd of 2020 with emergency second surgery due to a hematoma the size of a pop can and loss of so much blood that she needed a blood transfusion. After intrusive exams and x-rays, she had her third and final takedown surgery on January 25th, 2021. Victoria was going through the toughest period with her health as COVID lockdowns were happening. Her surgery recoveries were non-existent as her kids were home due to online schooling. What were some of the first symptoms that you started having after giving birth? How did you know that something was wrong?
Really, after I had my daughter, I went through some postpartum stuff where it's like I had some anxiety and a little depression. So I always think that was a very easy thing for doctors to fall back on. When I started seeking help for something more than that. I would say like 6 months after my daughter was born and a couple months after being diagnosed with anxiety, I started to lose weight, and drastically. I mean, I went from like 138 pounds. And again, this was after giving birth. So when I was still pregnant, I weighed 160, I think. But I went from kind of my regular 138 pounds down to like 108 pounds. And
that's a lot. That's a lot of weight loss so fast.
Super fast. And I also had a real just loss of hunger. That was a big thing. It wasn't like, how sometimes you're hungry and you have that urge where it's like, oh, your stomach is making that, making you aware of that. I had nothing to signal I was hungry. Nothing. I just couldn't eat certain foods that I really liked in the past. And I think that brought me to a couple doctors, seeking, I'm like, oh, something is going on. And they would go back to, oh, you just had a baby, you have anxiety, maybe it's a little depression mixed in there. We just have to treat that and the rest will kind of fall in place. Then another doctor I went to was like, oh, I think you're anorexic. What? And I was like, what? Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm 38 years old. There's absolutely no way that I don't think that could just happen. So going back to, leaving the hospital and having a plan, Natalia, I would go for months on my medication, completely fine. And then all of a sudden I would just start noticing blood in my stool. And that would be such an indicator that something was going on. And I should back up and let you know when I say, when you ask, other things that were going on before, I had like ulcers in my mouth, and that were super scary and concerning. Like, what is going on with me? Like, my body clearly was out of sync. But another, thing that you would never associate with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, IBD, irritable bowel disease, is that it can happen. Your body can have things happen in other places that aren't your colon. So that was actually really scary. And unfortunately, that was just part of the disease. So that was really,
Unbelievable.
yeah,
Unbelievable. I can't imagine, like, so much stuff going on all at the same time. And
right,
the scariest part is like not knowing of what's going on, what's
right,
causing this, right?
exactly. And they're not things you really want to just openly discuss, like,
Right.
oh, by the way, I have these things going on in my mouth where I feel like I have like gaps between my teeth, and, just horrible things that you would never just say, hey, I want to talk about this. Or, yes, I'm noticing so much blood in my stool. That's a
Right.
horrible thing too, where it's like, I don't really want to bring that up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I can't believe it that they didn't catch it for so long, that it took them
right.
like so long to like really stop and say, okay, let's dig deeper and see what's going on or where this is coming from.
Exactly. And that does still to this day very much blow my mind. I think it was really easy to say, hey, I think it's just you're not eating,
Mhm.
and those kind of things, because that's really what the focus was on for quite a while, which was really hard too. Um,
Because I feel like when we are in situations like that, we don't have time to think, or we don't have time to feel sorry for ourselves, right?
right.
Like, this is the cards I'm dealt with right now. I have to deal with it, and there is no time to feel the emotion or understand what's going on. And sometimes they can be good, but sometimes it can be bad. Because
Absolutely.
we don't see those red flags, like you were saying, like, there is something wrong with me. Like, I don't feel good. This has never happened to me before. So what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yes. But again, so besides going to the doctors and, talking to my family, I think, looking back, if it was something where people talked about it more,
Right.
and said, "Hey, this is what's going on with me." And then somebody would say, you know what? That's very similar to what happened with my cousin or my best friend, those kind of things. And then I would have addressed certain things so much quicker than I did.
Yes. Yes.
So it's crazy, but it was
Wow.
a hard time, but I got through it. That
And
first surgery went really well. Um, it was an 8-hour long surgery, which is really crazy to think about. And my doctor said my colon was one of the longest colons he's seen. And I think that's really crazy. I'm 5'1", and my colon was 6 feet long.
wow.
Think about that. It's like amazing.
Yeah.
So that
So they removed the whole thing at that time.
they remove everything. They close off this area right by your rectum,
Hmm.
and they close that off, but not 100%. So they let that recover, and then they remove your colon, and but where the small intestine attaches to it, they take that piece of the small intestine, they cut a probably like that big, maybe 2 inches incision into your abdominal to the right of your belly button.
Hmm.
And that's where your small intestine is outside of your body for
Hmm.
the um and you know what? I woke up with my ostomy and it did not bother me at all. It was very surreal. I remember then when they kind of marked me for where that was going to be. Um, I guess I just didn't know what to expect with that at all.
Right.
So, like, the day after my surgery, Natalia, I woke up and I was like, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
Like amazing. Again, where I was like, I think it was just having the weight off of my shoulders of never having to think about putting medication into my body. I was on 3 immuno suppressant medications, which is so hard on your body. And, you know, being on those for a long time is, in my mind, not ideal. It works for some people, did not work for me. It was like a weight was off my shoulder and I just felt good. I really felt good. And I think when I talk about this, sometimes I don't say that enough. Like once I had my colon removed, I felt amazing.
Yeah. It's like
And
physically you just felt so much better.
yeah, but I really feel and felt amazing after. So
And a lot of times I think that we are so programmed that, oh, doctors have all the answers. They know everything. They won't, mislead you. And we have this full trust and faith instead
100,
of, maybe getting a second opinion or doing some of the research. And we live in an era of internet that these information is now available to us. So I think it's important to question them and
yeah,
doing some of our own research too. I definitely agree with you with that.
yeah. And that's so true. And I've always been like, oh, I love my doctors. And yeah, what they say is right, right? I mean, why would you question them? But yeah, I think that's been a learning piece too, is that there is they're not the end all say all, there's
Yeah.
more that you can do than just take that diagnosis and move on.